Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Vampire Coast, who's going to be led by Salastra, and the Vampire Counts, who are going to be led by Manuel von Karstein, the Lord of Baldness. So as far as the matchup goes between the Vampire Coast and the Vampire Counts, it's a matchup that I would say has evolved quite a bit since the inception of the Vampire Coast. Originally, Vampire Coast players used to simply just bring Luther Harkin up on a Terrorgeist, and Luther Harkin is so damn good at dueling the Vampire Counts lords, right? They would bring like the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, or you'd see Manfred, or any number of these Zombie Dragon Lords, and he can kite them, he can shoot them, he can add to their cooldowns, which basically makes it so they can't use their magic. I mean, he was just such a good duelist up in the skies, and he still is. But the Vampire Counts definitely adjusted to that, and you can see here that my opponent has a massive air force. So essentially the metagame for the Vampire Coast in the beginning was you get Luther Harkin, you get a Deathstreak Terrorgeist, you spam Deck Droppers and Fellbats, you dominate the skies, and then the Vampire Coast basically, or the Vampire Counts, basically just get picked apart on the ground by Luther Harkin, your Deck Droppers, and all that kind of good stuff. But like I said, most Vampire Counts players who are a little bit seasoned and do play a lot of quick battles have learned quite a bit, and you can see here that this is a pretty well-adapted army to the original Vampire Coast meta. So up in the skies, there's a couple Fellbats. I think there's like 6 Fellbats in total. There's going to be a Terrorgeist, and it looks like it's going to be double Terrorgeist plus Manfred. So Manfred, with Spirit Leech, Invocation of Nehek, plus 2 Terrorgeist, should be able to take out Luther Harkin. Plus, I think he has like 6 Fellbats in total. Looks like there's going to be 2 here, and yeah, another 2 over here. So that's enough, because most of the time you'll have like 2 or 3 Deck Droppers, maybe 4 Fellbats if you really want to go all in the skies. And he's going to be able to overwhelm you with 6 Fellbats plus this massive air force. So basically the adjustment to that for the Vampire Coast is you just go very wide on the ground. You basically just bring a bunch of zombie-powered deckhand mobs in the front line, which can beat skeletons, they can beat zombies, and when the Vampire Counts are going to overcommit to the skies, they're not going to be able to, have elite troops like Graveguard to really break through your zombie-powered deckhand mobs. On top of that, you go very gun-heavy, so the zombie-powered gunnery mobs with handguns are very good at shooting down Terrorgeist, Manfred, any other flying threats, so you bring 4 of those, including the Black Spot. One group of Depth Guard here on the far side, they're just kind of a staple, I would say, at killing Chaff. So if you're going to be expecting Chaff from your opponent, and like I said, Chaff is the expectation because Terrorgeists are just so common here. So going with the Depth Guard, I think, is really, really solid. They basically just chew through zombies and all those other troops. In the back, we have 4 Halberds in total. So the Halberds, also a staple here, anti-large, armor-piercing. Vampire Counts are going to have a lot of, large, as well as armor with, like, Graveguard. So even if they have Graveguard in the front line, these guys can put up an okay fight. And here's another staple, Ronnie Brown from my campaign, as he was named, but this is the Morgul Hunter. And even though it's bonus versus infantry, he's still really good versus monsters. He has 50 melee attack. He has the slow ability, so you can say, you see here, let's go ahead and find it. I believe it's the Chilling Aura, so it lowers speed by 36%. And he also has this really nice item in this matchup. It's called the Scarecrow Banner, so it actually lowers leadership by -8 of flying units that are nearby. So he can crumble Fellbats super quick. He can crumble Terrorgeist if he's like fighting them for a long period of time. He's very good. We got Salastra to summon the crabs, and she does have the Song of Enthrallment and the Arcane Conduit, and we have a Vampire Caster for Invocation of Nehek, which you have to have in this matchup. If you don't, you're going to get Spirit Leech into Oblivion with Salastra, and it's going to be a very, very bad day. So that's my entire force, definitely pretty well rounded. The Vampire Counts still have some good options against me. They do have the Fellbats, which can dive my guns. The Breath Attack's, of course, very powerful, and Manfred can Spirit Leech spam on top of Salastra and potentially kill her very quickly. So, even though I would say I adjusted pretty well to what my opponent brought, he still has plenty of answers to take me out here. So let's get the show on the road. So his entire army, zombies, Terrorgeist, we pretty much saw it already. In the back, he has a couple Fellbats, I think, or not Fellbats, but Fell Wolves, Dire Wolves. He's got 2 Dire Wolves, the Dire Pack, as well as 1 group of standard Dire Wolves, which are going to be really good against my guns. How effective he uses those, I think, is really going to determine the outcome of like Porky Pig right now. Just drank like 3 cups of coffee. I'm so hyped, man. It's going to determine the outcome of the game. So up here in the skies, you can see Manfred's just going to be circling about, collecting his Winds of Magic, getting ready to Spirit Leech spam, inevitably, on Salastra Direfin. Let's see what else is going on. I think he had 1 Cav unit that I just can't simply remember. I played this game a couple days ago. Yes, in the distance, he does have the Chill Guy. So he has these. These are an interesting pick here, but I really wasn't expecting them. And it is another mobile armor-piercing tool, right? He can kill the Depth Guard with him. He can swarm some other units. And Salastra, who is, really weak to magic damage, they also do magic. So if they can surround Salastra, that can be pretty ugly. But he's going to be arranging his forces here, getting these Zombos and the Fellbats and everyone ready to dive. And I wasn't sure, I didn't want to advance. And this is one of those maps that I really think should be removed from the multiplayer pool. It's just like one army starts like fully in the forest. The other one's like on the low ground. It's just like terrible. Line of sight sucks on here. It's just, maybe I'll make a separate video on that, like maps that I just think should be taken out of the multiplayer pool. Anyways, the Lamprey's Revenge, these angry regenerating Stearnsman crabs. So I do have these as well. And my opponent's going to be dropping a Spirit Leech, which is fine. Honestly, I would probably use a Spirit Leech on Salastra because they're just going to heal through it naturally with their natural regeneration. Unless you like kill a model, but again, Invocation of Nehek can resurrect. So Manfred gets a little bit overzealous. He's going to be taking some firepower from the zombie-powered gunnery mobs. And basically, I'm just kind of using these crabs to harass and just blast some of these zombies. You can see my opponent is falling back a little bit into the forest. So I'm just trying to bait him into fight. I mean, I can advance, but we're both really slow. I figure, hey, let's just kind of meet in this middle area. But, honestly, if he ran into the forest, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I have a lot of tools for harass and poking. I could, work apart his flying units with my guns. So Could go well. Anyways, the black spot's going to be opening up on Manfred here. It looks like Manfred's coming to summon some zombies, maybe try and juke out my gunfire, but he does take some pretty substantial damage, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, you can see my opponent doing some zigzags, but really I think it's worth it for me to get that damage off. Ammunition, of course, is, these guys got quite a hefty round of ammunition here. On the far side, I'm going to be using Celestia to summon those damned Knights Errants, and they're going to be charging in here into the zombies, just trying to get any free value I can, and I'm also going to be shooting the Fellbats on their approach, trying to pick them apart to make sure I don't take as much damage. So here comes the first charge from the Knights Errants here. They're going to be charging into the Zombos, doing some pretty good damage, but these guys dissipate pretty quickly, but it's mainly just like a distraction card effects. In the middle, my Lamprey's Revenge are going to be pinning up these zombies and crab slapping these guys into another dimension, so that's always a good time. And here you can see the bats have swarmed in. And now the bats are actually doing pretty good against my gunnery mobs. Right here, you shut me down. I'm going to be sending in the deckhand mobs to fight these guys. And I do also summon another one with my Vampire Fleet Captain, seeing that there was a bit of an opening in my formation. But Fellbats, breath attacks coming in from the Terror guys, all of that is going to add up pretty quick. But the Death Guard are definitely helping. These guys are very good at killing infantry-sized units, and Fellbats are indeed infantry-sized. In the meantime, my opponent does get a pretty good charge into the back. I really didn't see these guys coming. The chill guys do come up and around the back and jump onto my guns, but it's not really a big deal. I do have Ronnie Brown here. He's going to be able to slow those guys and do some good damage. And I do also summon some Krabby Patties. It's a little bit slow in the summon. Unfortunately, the Rotting Prometheans weren't able to pin them in, but nonetheless, they'll help with the crabs. And if these guys do come back in, I'll have some resources. My damned Knights Errants are doing a pretty good job kiting around, and they did occupy the attention of the Terror guys, which is very nice. And also, Celestia is going to be running in here, getting the Song of Enthrallment, which is going to slow these chill guys down pretty bad. So you can see the chill guys here are slowed down to 16 speed in conjunction with Ronnie Brown's debuff, so the Halberds and Ronnie should be able to pimp slap those guys pretty badly. The Rotting Prometheans also helping with the bats. Some doggos do get into the back line into my gun, so he's coming at me from just so many different angles, but I feel like we're going to be able to stabilize here. The Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs are just shambling down here. I will be pulling back the gunnery mobs up and through these Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs. Fellbats here are doing a pretty good job chewing down these guys. Halberds are trying to defend them, but there's just so many bats everywhere. But at the very least, I mean, we're probably going to kill all 6 Fellbats in this initial onslaught, which is quite a bit of gold, right? That's like 350 apiece if I'm not mistaken. So right now the crabs are going to be falling back. They did pretty much solo a couple groups of zombies and just kind of held them in place, which helped a little bit against the tar pitting. And the crabs are going to be rushing back now to help out a little bit. And the halberds are fending off these units just fine. And yeah, he is going to be using an Invocation of Nehek on the chill guys in the back. So Manfred up in the skies has been taking some gunfire intermittently. So every chance I get, I put them on guard mode. I make sure to poke them a little bit. And of course, the Terror guys are in pretty good shape, except for this one over here. This Terror guys actually landed in the midst of the halberds. And the Depth Guard actually, honestly, they still have really high weapon strength, so they can chew it down. We are able to stabilize the black spot. And remember, the black spot does have anti-large and armor piercing itself in melee, so they're able to do some great work against that Terror guys. But this situation, relatively stable. As such, you can see my opponent is going to be reacting pretty quickly here. He does get his chill guys and his dogs up here and all these other troops. And he's going to be charging me, but it's not the end of the world. Black spot's pretty sturdy, and I can probably fall back to the Depth Guard and these other troops. So you can see I fall back immediately, taking some good shock damage. So well played to my opponent. Very nice charge there. We're going to be falling back and pulling the Depth Guard back and through. And Depth Guard are easily going to just murder these Dire Pack and the Dire Wolves in a matter of probably 30 seconds. That's going to be pretty nice. So a lot of the Vampire Count's forces are washing upon my defenses here. You can see the Terror guys here is very beat up. The Chill guys are in okay shape, actually. The Invocation of Nehek doing some good work. Manfred using the Master of the Black Arts to kind of chop himself off. But for the most part, I feel like we're starting to stabilize. Ronnie's pretty healthy. Celestia has been getting Spirit Leech, so she's a little bit beat up, but she's nowhere near her healing cap. So that means a good Invocation of Nehek is going to be able to kind of top her off. Over here, we do have the Zombie Pirate Gunnery mob, still 55 models, able to stabilize, and yeah, we're able to kind of secure this position as he does finish off my Damned Knights Errants. So very, very close battle. I would say I have a slight advantage in the bounce of power, but again, Vampire Counts are one of those factions that can simply goon your lord in a matter of seconds. So if I, for example, let Celestia slip up and get dove by Manfred plus a double Terror guy, she could crumble and die very quickly, especially if he gets a really good Spirit Leech. Another great summon going down right here, so the summon on top of the black spot is going to force him back, so I'm going to be trying to pull them back. And the Terror guys here does land, and I think it was going after the black spot as well, but I do use Ronnie Brown, the Morngul Haunter, who's been doing a very, very good job just kind of slapping these guys up and slowing them down, and at least fending them off, if not being able to catch them. On top of that, I do have the shotguns on the Lamprey's Revenge. Those shotguns are going to be blasting into the Terror guys here up in the sky. Seems to be going okay, but a very nice countercharge coming in from my opponent with the Chill guys. They're going to be charging into the Depth Guard, which I did see coming, so I'm going to be countercharging with the Lamprey's Revenge and Ronnie and all these guys, and I'm easily able to force them back. I obviously want to keep the Depth Guard around because they're very good at killing these mass amounts of zombies. But, he's been able to snipe a couple of my gunnery mobs. This one's, pretty beat up here. I have another one, the Black Spot, who's in okay shape. So, essentially, for all those Fellbats and Direwolves that he did harass with, he killed 2 full groups of and did a lot of other damage across the board. But, he was able to kill 2 of my gunnery mobs. 2 of them are pretty much dead, but I'm going to be using an Invocation of Nehek to top those guys off. And here it looks like the Chill guys are going to be committing to a fight, and they have good armor piercing, but the crabs have such high melee defense, I feel like it's going to be really tough for these guys, and the shotguns, of course, resounding out in the skies, and Manfred and the Terror guys are basically just looking for opportunities to maybe snipe out my captain or go after some other targets. In the distance, there are some zombos that are going to be rallying. My deckhand mobs, though, are in pretty good shape. I've been keeping them in reserve for pretty much the entire battle, and they've also just been fighting fellbats and dogs and things like that. My guns are able to get back online, which is really nice. It gives me a tool because if I didn't have any guns, my opponent could simply just fly in circles and breath attack and spam and not engage me. So having the guns kind of forces him to make a move here, which I was very, very grateful because, you know, that is one of the situations that can be pretty tough on ladder here. So 7 minutes and 40 seconds into the battle. The bounce of fire a little bit in my favor, but, you know, despite that, my opponent still has most of his army. Right? Not like, you know, the fellbats and the chaff, but he still has most of his heavy hitters. He has a Terrorgeist here, he has another one here. Manfred's a little bit beat up. He's been taking some gunfire. The Chillgeist, of course, at about, you know, 30-40%, but we get a fat, juicy invocation of the heck. Just so good and tasty. We pile everyone in. We get the black spot, we get the guns, we get, you know, our elites, we get the Vampire Fleet Captain, we get everything. And that is going to be so powerful going into the late game here. And Manfred's going to be taking some heavy gunfire from the renewed vigor here on the zombie pirate gunnery mobs, which is really nice. So he's probably sitting and waiting for the breath attacks to come off cooldown, but now he's going to have to engage me or simply just run away, which, you know, could potentially do. The zombies on the far side just kind of hiding in the forest, running back into the trees. It doesn't look like they want to engage, but maybe he's going to pull them in when he gets ready to do an alpha strike of some sort. The other Terrorgeist is looking to get a breath attack, so he's going to be coming in, but I did turn these guys to shoot him, so the breath attack is only really going to get like 2 zombies, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. And it looks like there's going to be a Spirit Leech going down on Solastra as well, so doing everything he can just to kind of work down my lords and heroes and the guns, of course, which are a very, very good counter to his troops. So Solastra is now at her healing cap. A little bit scary. Her HP pool is very, very low in general. It's kind of just the nature of the beast with ethereal units in general, is that they have very, very low HP at the exchange of great physical resist. Up here in the skies, the Terrorgeist is going to be flying back into the tree. It looks like Manfred's going to be doing his thing as well, maybe just running back to try and regenerate some Winds of Magic. And I did decide to send the Depth Guard out here as a bit of a distraction. I was like, okay, I'm going to run over here and, you know, feign an attack on these zombies. And if he does engage, I'm going to turn and just shoot him with my guns, hoping to get some, you know, pretty decent damage here. And Death Guard, honestly, yeah, the Terrorgeist has pretty good armor piercing, but, you know, these guys aren't pushovers. They're going to be able to fight, and I also do have the taunt with the Vampire Fleet Captain, which lowers its armor to 50, its melee defense to 15, so suddenly these Depth Guard are going to start doing some pretty serious damage to this Terrorgeist if it decides to stay. So thankfully that kind of, you know, that feign and that attack here was able to kind of force my opponent's hand, and he engaged here, which is good, because finally we're starting to get some damage on this elite target. But my Depth Guard are taking a bit of a beating in turn, but they are healing through some of its damage, and, you know, Ronnie Brown's coming in with the used car salesman, flappy arm guys, whatever they're called. God, I know we had a whole discussion about this in one of the previous videos with Vampire Coast, but we're able to charge in there and get that Terrorgeist down pretty low, and of course the slowing ability is just so damn powerful, but my opponent, seeing an opportunity here, is going to dive in with both Terrorgeists, who do of course have anti-large, they have armor piercing, and he gets some really good damage on Ronnie. However, I do have the Depth Guard coming up. We have the Song of Enthrallment coming down from Solastra, which is going to be lowering the melee attack, as well as the speed of these Terrorgeists. So he's not going to be able to kind of kite me as much right now because I do have him slowed from 2 fronts. The Terrorgeist literally at 15 speed. I have guns. I have a bunch of troops in the back that are just kind of fending off the Chillgeist, but the guns for the most part are going to be setting up to fight. Big angry crabs are coming in. Manfred von Karstein's going to be coming in as well. It looks like we do have a bit of a pit fight on our hands. Manfred's going to be coming in, and he is a pretty good combatant. Manfred has some scary combat stats. I think he has like 70 melee attack, which compared to Solastra, who does have 35 melee defense, she's going to have a little bit of trouble. But the Vampire Fleet Captain's going to get a big invocation of the heck, which is going to hit the Haunter, it's going to hit the Depth Guard, who are chewing through these zombies very quick, 137 kills. And the crabs, of course, just kind of slapping up the zombies, trying to get rid of the chaff, because I was like, okay, if I get rid of the chaff, if this guy really wants to like hype me around the map and just not engage, at least he's going to be taking leadership penalties. So from here, I'm just going to get rid of the zombies and the chaff as best I can while trying to fight Manfred and his Terrorgeist. So the bounce power is creeping in my favor ever so slightly, but again, Solastra is getting a little bit low. You know, it's a little bit of a scary situation here, but the Morngul Haunter and the Vampire Fleet Captain are doing quite a number on the Terrorgeist, but I realize I need to get Manfred. He's the one who can spam the Spirit Leeches all game and has more summons. Let's go ahead and pile in and see if we can kind of burn down Manfred here. Bounce power is creeping in my favor a little bit more as we start to get through some of the chaff. Terrorgeist, of course, we're getting quite beat up, and I think he still has both of them left. Let's see, did he actually lose one? Might have lost to Terrorgeist. I think one of them might have gotten taken out by the Morngul Haunter and the Vampire Fleet Captain when I wasn't watching, but Crab's doing a pretty good job here. Lamprey's Revenge still very, very tough. The Sternsman, I mean, even if these were my only units left, they would be very, very tough for him to kill. I mean, they're just such a burly unit. They're kind of like the Sternsman and Orgrimling's Ironbreakers manifested into angry, rotting Promethean's crab thing. Yeah, anyways. Manfred down here is going to be fighting against Solastra. He is going to be getting a nice little charge in here with the Terrorgeist. Very, very good stuff there. And the Morngul Haunter is going to be continuing to pimp slap, doing his thing. And also we do have our black spot right here in our other group of the zombie pirate gunnery mobs who do fall back from that summon. So he's trying to shut down my guns, and he almost gets Solastra. Very, very close stuff, but we do get the Song of Enthrallment again, which is going to lower Manfred's combat stats. It's going to slow the Terrorgeist. And from here, I should be able to waddle away. So we're going to be waddling back to my zombies, who've just been taking an eternity to get over here. But it looks like the Morngul Haunter is maybe going to be able to finish off Manfred. We do get the taunt from the Vampire Fleet Captain, so he is just getting so damn low. 1200 HP here as the Morngul Haunter is just doing his thing. My opponent does have some cav. He does have the chill guys coming up and around the flank, but I have so many halberds and just chaff zombies that I'm really not terribly concerned here. And from there, you can see the balance of power is going to massively shift in my favor. He's going to crumble, and that's going to be all she wrote for the Vampire Counts. So well played. That was a very fun game. I think this build is pretty damn strong against Vampire Counts. I think if the Vampire Counts went with like a more, let's say, like Graveguard-centric strategy, just having a ton of shielded infantry, even someone like, Vlad von Karstein, right? It would be very, very tough. They could be able to just grind through your front line, get to your guns, and it would be pretty tricky. Granted, I think you have answers. You have plenty of armor-piercing bullets. You have the Crab Summons. You have the Morgul Haunter for armor-piercing. You also do have the Lamprey's Revenge, which are pretty much like a hard counter against Graveguard. Graveguard would be able to do 0 damage to Lamprey's Revenge. They would really struggle there. So I feel like it's a pretty well, rounded Vampire Coast build. It's not using the more traditional competitive lords like Count Noxalis, as well as Luther Harkin. Well, I guess, Solastra is pretty competitive in her own right. I mean, she's not competitive on her own, but what she opens up, when you bring Solastra, it allows you to kind of just bring the more optimized spells. You get an AoE slow, you get Arcane Conduit, you do also get the Crab Summon, and that really kind of makes the Vampire Fleet Captain shine quite efficiently. And yeah, my opponent's build, obviously very well designed to kill the traditional style or the old school style of play for the Vampire Coast with the Death Freak Terror Guys and Deck Droppers and things like that, but it wasn't terribly well equipped to deal with this force. Granted, it still did a pretty good job. It was almost able to do it just through sheer kind of kiting and really optimizing breath attacks and the Spirit Leeches and things like that. It was pretty scary. And I mean, it still had a very swarming element, right? Like 6 Felbats, 2 dogs. That's a lot of pressure on the zombie pirate gunnery mob. So, I mean, he was able to kill them and negate a lot of the value they typically generate. But yeah, it was still a very, very scary game. So well played to my opponent. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Coast versus Vampire Count showdown. A clash of some of the stronger factions of the game for sure. But again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. So thanks again for watching, guys. And we will see you all next time. Take care.